guys. I feel like it's my first day.
It is
Right.
On this planet.
Well, here, I think I'm like used to walking and breathing, but it feels like my first day doing this.
And you've been
Lindsay
on,
Haston,
you've been on before.
I have. That was like years ago, 2 years, 3 years.
It was probably
Ages.
3. I think it was 3 years ago that you were
We
on.
were recording in
God.
person.
Jen, you had blonde hair.
Wow.
Like I kind of forgot you did, and then somebody posted a picture, or it was probably the podcast of like an old, and I was like, Jen?
Who was
I knew you then.
Who is she?
Who was I?
Okay, wait. So I'll go back and start. So we are so thrilled to have one of our wonderful therapists back on ShrinkChicks today, Dr. Lindsay Haston, who is also accepting new clients in many states, which is like Lindsay's never accepting. So we were like, as soon as she told us she's going to have some room, we're like, will you come back on ShrinkChicks, please? And she's here today to talk all about releasing control and finding the levity in life. Welcome, Lindsay.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
The funniest part, okay, Lindsay got a new phone number this year, which is like, you never really get a new phone number, right? Like most people have had the same phone number for decades and decades. Yes. And so we get on this. I went to text her about something this morning and realized that she has not responded to any of my texts in 3 months, which I think also shows you how ADHD I am, that I send these texts and I like never think to check again. And I'm like, oh fuck, is Lindsay mad at me? Like I didn't like. So we get on this recording and I was like, wait, Liz, are you mad at me? And I was texting the wrong phone number for 3 months.
I kind of love that like somebody was getting those and never corrected you. They were just like, I'm going to follow the thread. They were waiting for you to say something like exciting.
What happens, right? Like, does it get reassigned to a person? Wow. So you're texting someone.
Wait, and think about like who's getting your numbers. It's probably like a 13-year-old.
Yes.
It's probably a kid that got
and
your
you're
number.
Texting, you're a 13-year-old about a rage room.
For sure. And God only knows what else, Jen. Like
she just told us a little snippet of what she texted you. Who knows what else?
So weird stuff.
So now I'm like, all mixed up. But here we are, and you're here, and you're not mad at me. So I'm very excited about that.
I had been wondering why I hadn't heard from you. No, I'm kidding. I didn't think anything of it at all. Because I feel like we've had a group chat.
Yeah.
So maybe we heard from each other there.
Yes.
I do love that you hadn't updated the phone number though. Good for you.
Me too. I love that. And I feel like when we're offline,
I went to
get our new one.
No, I have both numbers, but for some reason it didn't merge together. And so I just have 2 in my phone.
God,
and what many people
my mom did that. My mom has Lindsay's old number saved and then Lindsay's new number, like 2 separate contacts. I'm like, Mom,
that's why
you're never going to call Lindsay's old number. Like you
just delete it unless you want to talk to the 13-year-old. Like maybe someone wants to chat with them,
But for the record, I will be putting Lindsay new in. I will be doing the same thing as your mother.
You're a boomer, and I love that about you.
I am a boomer. But also as a reminder, Lindsay and I went to middle school together. And we used to get into lots of trouble. And then as the therapy group was growing, I slid into your DMs.
It was the nicest DM slide I've ever had. Like, generally that's like sometimes tricky and there's genitals. And this was no one hitting on me. Like this was like the most lovely DM I've ever gotten, to be honest with you.
Do you want to work? Yeah. Do you want to come over and work with us?
The right kind of DM.
Best decision we've ever made.
Best decision.
The feeling is very mutual.
Yes. Okay. So Lizzie, one of the reasons we wanted to have you come on and talk about this today is because I think basically every interaction I've ever had with you is so much joy. And you are someone who is so good at finding the humor in things and handling stuff in this wonderful way and having this positive outlook. And I think, when you're really struggling in life, it's fucking hard to do that. It is so hard to like release the control and find celebrity. And you are very, very good at this.
It didn't happen on purpose that I got good at it in my personal life. Like it's always been something so I trained pretty extensively in acceptance and commitment therapy. And in ACT, we talk a little bit about diffusion. And Jen, actually, like you posted a clip and I was like, Jen's in my brain talking about how we are the thinker, not our thoughts. Right? Like we don't have to believe every thought we hear. So there's letting go internally and then there's letting go externally, like letting go of expectations and when they go awry And also letting go of the fact that if I have a thought, I don't need to follow that, hold on to it, grip it so tightly. And I personally had to come to that because like shit just kept happening. Like life just kept happening to me in a way that I was like, oh goodness. Like I am going to have a very negative outlook. I'm going to lose the levity. I'm going to lose the joy. I'm going to become swallowed into this like I'm not good enough. I hate myself. And to make that pivot, to switch, so important. Hard to do, but really important.
Absolutely. Can you speak a little bit to acceptance and commitment therapy? Because I do think that's how my brain works. But for anyone listening, I would love for them to hear a little bit about it.
Totally. So I describe ACT. CBT is like such a more popular modality in some ways. It's been around a little bit longer. I describe ACT as like CBT's much cooler sister or much cooler cousin. Partially because CBT is so much, there's a lot more rigidity in it. It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do and we're going to progress in this order. With ACT is more so a framework that your therapist holds and then applies the skills in working with you. So it might not look like in therapy, I say, today we're going to practice diffusion. I might be saying, Jen might say a very critical thought she's had, like, I'm not good at that. And I might say, could we change the language to I'm having the thought that I'm not very good at that? So ACT is not so much in your face, I think, as other modalities. It's something for the therapist to kind of hold on to. And ACT overall is really about how can I, inevitably life is going to be painful, but how can I move through this life that I'm in line with my values, create happiness, and not get like bogged down in all of the inevitable pain that comes with it, right? Because unfortunately, that's just, things are going to continue to happen. Cars won't start, things will go wrong, someone will break your heart. Like all of that is just going to have to happen.
100%. It was made me giggle in my own head is like when a therapist goes, like they're about to drop some knowledge on you.
For sure. It's such a good, do we learn that? Like, do they tell us that?
No, I think it just happens naturally. Like, I think you just develop it. It grows.
Yeah. The groan, the therapy, like groan.
Right. Like,
Okay, wait. So
automatically.
So let's go. So the other thing you're also talking about is like giving up control, right? In a really big way. And the number one question, right? When you like put out these list of questions, every fucking person is like, how? Tell me how to do this. I'm so controlling. And like, I'm not talking about myself, not me. No, not this girl.
Never
She's not
you.
controlling
No.
at all.
No.
So how?
Such a process, right? And I think partially by reminding ourselves in the moment, the only thing we can control is our perspective and our reaction. Everything else is just going to happen. And the more we like claw and fight and work to take control back, the more frustrated we feel because ultimately we're fighting a losing battle. Our energy is better placed in like acknowledging like, oh wow, that is immensely frustrating. There is very little that I can do to change the fact or the outcome. What I can do is change how much it feels like it weighs to me. Sometimes I use like a ton of metaphors and imagery. Any of my clients who hear this are going to be like, "Oh my God, she never stops." But I find it very helpful. And sometimes I think of, say when I first start therapy, my anxiety weighs 100 pounds. It is making it harder for me to get out of bed. It's harder to be in social situations, right? Like, how am I a guest at a wedding with an additional 100-pound block on my back? ACT's goal is not to alleviate the weight completely, it's to lessen it. So it's probably possible for me to move through my day with like a 10-pound anxiety weight versus something that weighs as much as 2 of your children, or 1 of your dogs.
One of my dogs, so 3 of my children, 1 of my dogs.
So I think partially the letting go of control is internal. It's like reminding ourselves not only that the energy is better spent elsewhere, but also that like we can accept things as neutral. Our brains have evolved to constantly be scanning for threats and make judgment and frankly just be negative. Instead, how can we see information in our environment as not good or bad, but just it's happening, right? Like much more in the middle of the spectrum rather than all the black and white thinking that we tend to do.
You know, Lindsay, you and I have something in common right now, which is our dogs are getting older.
Ugh.
And so as you start to talk about this, I'm like, oh, this is right. Like when you talk about the acceptance, there's a lot of stuff in life. It's like, I don't want to accept. Right. Like the idea of my dog getting older. And that's something you and I really related to this year is like you watch your dogs, like your soul outside. And then you're like, what is going to happen? And what do I do? And how much? And I think that there's a part of when you don't want to accept your reality, how much harder that is as well. I don't want to accept that my dog is getting older. And so sometimes when I see like he can't stand up anymore and he can't get upstairs by himself, it's hell.
Oh my God.
It is. Yeah, it's like getting your heart broken.
Frequently. Yeah. I like Todd like trips. My older dog is Todd. I watch him trip over something and I'm like immediate.
Yeah.
Like sobbing already. And I try to, not all the time. Some of it is like, wow, this is a slow grief process. So I'm going to let myself slowly grieve the things that he can't do anymore. Another thing that I've been like really harping on in our house, me and the dogs, is like, what can he do? Instead of focusing on, right? Because we've all felt that way, whether it's like an injury or something else, like all these things I can't do. What can he do? He can still play tug of war where I go like, ooh, right? And he loves it. So that counts. And sometimes he humps people when he's really excited. And I'm like, damn, look at those back legs. Like,
wow.
You can't jump on the couch, but like for a hump. So I think part of that is also like, again, it's perspective.
Yeah.
It's how can I disengage from this like negative track of thinking and try to see it as that is what it is. Like dogs age. You've been giving these dogs like such a beautiful, incredible life. How can I continue to? Even if it's smaller, it looks different than I wish it did.
How would you suggest making that switch, right? Like, let's say you're in this mindset of, you know, my dog's getting older in this specific example. In that moment, what do you do to make that switch to work through that for yourself?
Yeah. So metaphors, again, there's going to be like a ton of act stuff that I talk about here. The first step is even noticing it's happening. Right? Like so often we are hooked by our thoughts or a narrative in our head, and we are pulled away from the present moment and we don't even know it's happening. So there's an act metaphor, and I'll like spare you the whole saga, but it essentially asks clients to write down the things that keep coming up for them on a piece of paper. And then you have them like grip it really tight and hold it in front of them. And then you do an exercise of like, okay, but see how much it's in the way. Like all those thoughts, sometimes it's helpful to like make it more visual for people. So all those thoughts are like, here, I can't see either of you. It's impacting my ability to be connected to people around me. It's impacting my ability to be present. We're not going to get rid of this, right? Like we're always going to have self-critical thoughts. That's the nature of our brains. What if I was to place it in my lap though? Like if I were to disengage a little bit from these thoughts and allow them to happen, right? Like cars driving by, they're just passerbys. If I were to put that down, I'm so much more able to interact. So step one for me is like, can you even notice that you're getting pulled into your head? And if you can we try to not erase those thoughts, not get rid of them? Probably impossible, but can we pay attention to them less or hold on to them less?
Oof, it's so good. It's such like a practice too, you know?
Oh my God. I'm like, I talk to myself always, but especially when I'm catching myself. I'll be, like going about my day and then something will happen and I'll like fuck something up and I'll immediately get on myself in my head of like, okay, idiot, like you could have done that differently and look what you did here. And I will have to say, ooh, time out, time out. Was that just human? Was it just human? Okay. Right? Like it's a frequent like catching situation.
Okay, so somebody wrote in and asked, why do you think it's so hard to accept that not everything is in my control? I like how
God.
I like how they went from you to me. They were like,
yeah.
why do you think that it's hard for me to let go of control?
Oh man. We want predictability. Like we want to know what's going to happen. I think there's a lot of sense of security in knowing what's next. in feeling like I can prepare for it. So this idea of lack of control is like, well, how am I going to know? There's a lot of what ifs. What's going to happen? Can I do it? What if I'm not prepared in the way that I thought I was, right? Like, I feel like anxiety drives a lot of that. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. And sometimes I say to clients, like, we can't control like anything, right? We're in control of nothing. And sometimes they're like, yeah, that's so freeing. And other times they're like, don't say that out loud, even though I know it's partially true, right? Like, that's a secret.
Well, there's parts of it that are freeing, right? Like, I love the idea, like, whatever, I can't control other people's traffic. So if I'm fucking late, it doesn't matter. But then if it's like, oh, I can't control if my kid's heart gets broken or if my dog dies, I don't like that.
It feels different.
That feels very different, right? So like, I think it can go either way. But fuck yeah, I want predictability. I'm not one of those people that get bored by that though.
No,
like, I'll do the same thing every
it would
day.
be nice. Yeah, it would be nice. But there's so much beauty in unknown.
Yeah.
There is so much beauty in not knowing what's next and recognizing that, like, the stories that we're telling ourselves of, oh, this is the timeline, or this is how the next 5 or 10 years of my life should go. That's boring. If we're married to that, we're missing out on so much life that we could be experiencing, enjoying, failing, pivoting, right? All of it.
And you really hear that so much. We get so many questions about that too. Like when someone's holding on so tightly to this timeline that it takes them away from just living in the moment, just like really living the life that they're living, right? And it doesn't take away from the fact that, when you have this timeline in your mind for so long, right? There's a lot of grief that comes with that of like, I'm, not following this, or I have friends that are kind of in this space and I'm not in this space. And so I just, wonder if we hold on so tightly to that in order to not grieve, right? In order to not feel those feelings of pain of like, I'm not where I thought that I would be. And at the same time, it keeps us from really living in the moment in where you are and that kind of acceptance in where you are.
Emily hates
I'm
it.
having like,
she doesn't want to.
I'm having
like, she
like,
doesn't
I'm
want
crying.
To. Are you crying?
Good.
I'm
good.
crying. No, because maybe we'll cut this out. I don't know where to find out where this goes.
No, we will not.
So we're trying to figure out if we're going to use a surrogate or try for another round of IVF. And like, fear holds me back from so many fucking things. So like, Lindsay, when you sit here and say like, yeah, but like, it could be really beautiful too, to like try and like figure it out. Because one of the reasons why I'm like so scared about doing another round of IVF is like the fear of pain, right? Like the fear of like having another miscarriage or having another loss. And if someone said to me like, oh, 100% you'll get pregnant, then I'll be like, okay, fuck it, then I'll do it, right?
Right.
And so I'm sitting here because here's the really fucked up thing. I have to make this decision by my birthday.
Oh my God.
On my actual birthday, I have to make this fucking decision. And
what timing?
Right?
Because of like meds and rounds and like what all this stuff. And I think it's really hard when you are someone who's like a controlled person to give up control and to let fear in. Especially because like part of the reason that I like control is like I'm not like sort of like I have fear of failure, fear of fear, all those things. And so for whatever fucking reason, when Lindsay talks, I can hear it.
But like, think of all the things that you have already done that you didn't think you could do, and you fucking did them, and you did them like incredibly well. Like, how fucking cool is that to look back at things and be like, I didn't think I could do that. I was fucking terrified. And guess what? I did it, even if it still turned out bad, right?
Like, Lindsay, you and I were smoking pot out of a tin toke behind a Clemens in 8th grade. So
a tin toke.
Yeah, God, we've come a long way. I wonder if we should go back there just one more time, the old stomping grounds. Us and the 13-year-olds, like, who would be there? But really, I totally get it. I get it. And I think there's also something about like the high achieving types that makes us not want to let go of control and more prone to all the anxiety. And I mean, infertility, IVF, all of that is like a whole special hell. For people, I cannot imagine wanting and needing my body to do this one fucking thing for me and doing everything I can that is within my control and still being met with, nope.
I mean, that's the thing, right?
It doesn't land good.
We say to people, okay, well, just control what you can. And then it's like, what if I've done that?
Right.
What now?
Yeah.
And that's sort of hard to switch too, to like be like, okay, well, I'll control everything, but then I give it up. Now I'm done with the control.
Yeah, and there's so much in that process of like so many small things where you're like, okay, I am taking control of this. I am taking control. And then I feel like, you know, just from what we talked, like you hit a wall and they're just like, well, now you have nothing. Like now you can't control anything else.
Now you're screwed.
I said it's wild to go on one end of the spectrum of like, you can control all of these things over and over and over again, like shots and appointments and then get to this point where you're like, okay, we did everything.
Now you just give it out to the universe, right? Although I did say to Jen, will you be my surrogate? I'll just pay you a bunch of cash. And she said, no, but think about the content we would get from that.
Oh my God. People would love it.
And you know, I'll do anything for the content, anything for the business. I was like, maybe.
I know. First you dyed your hair. You were like, I'm gonna go brown for the podcast. And then
surrogacy.
Big leap. Big leap.
Yeah, big jump.
You're right like, though. Wow. And like, I think that's a really good perspective too, Jen, of like, actually IVF is like a total mind fuck because there's a lot that you cannot practice. They're actually like, not only is there control, but like it's regimented. It's exact same time every day. I mean, there's so much about that is like clinging to structure and control.
Yeah.
Yes. And to then have people try to pivot into like, now, you know, we'll see what happens. What?
Now like, you have this decision, right? Now you go for a surrogate or you try one more fucking time. And it's like, also like you hit a point. The thing about IVF is like, you're actually not making a ton of decisions, right? They're like, here's your medicine. You take it exactly this time at this day and you show up to this. And I actually loved that part because I'm like, fuck it. I'm just here. Right. Like I love a God. And they send you a treatment calendar. They make your appointments. I'm like, this is lovely for me.
Yeah.
And then it's like, just kidding. Now make the biggest decision yet. Also, but like, you think about finding levity, and I'm like, oh, well, my favorite joke is that, like, you know, at least for the Handmaid's Tale, no one's gonna pick me.
That is true.
You will be
going for you.
You will be the chef. What's the
no, it's like when they're the one in where they're like, you know, plowing toxic waste or something.
Yeah. That's where I would end up. Be sent to the colonies.
You'd be good at that. You'd be really good at it.
Oh, I think you would be like the chef, the one who like cooks all the food in there. No.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
A much better job than toxic waste.
That's what
pusher.
I think.
Fuck.
Toxic waste pusher. Right. I just think you should show people your chef skills and then maybe you will get a different
well, I better
job.
Start getting some fucking chef skills so I can show
Yeah. You got to start cooking.
Yeah.
I cannot say publicly what I say I would do in the zombie apocalypse, but you should know that I have 2 skills and one is reading comprehension and the other I won't be saying out loud. And that is all I have to rely on because I do not have a lot of athletic ability. I'm not outrunning anything.
Oh, so
I'm not skilled in weapons.
But you'd be the Jezebels, I believe they call that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm down. Sign me up.
I do believe certain people get to go to the Jezebels. I would also hope I ended up there. That would work for me.
Yeah. Leverage what you got. And you've got plenty.
2 tits. Okay. So this episode is great. Let's be crying, making jokes about tits. Great. Okay. Somebody said, I like the idea of letting go of expectations in theory. In theory. But how do I put it into practice? I find my expectations are often way too high.
Great. Good question. Interpersonally and otherwise, I sometimes like to think about this as exercise or movement in any way, right? Like if I go into an exercise class, I have a Peloton. I'm a stan about it. You can make fun of me all you want. It's probably the most basic thing about me.
No, I love that you have stayed on the Peloton train, even when so many people got off. I think you're a loyal bitch.
I'm on it. And if I have a heart attack stuck into it with my shoes like Big did in Sex and the City, the movie, That was my time. I will say though, like exercise has allowed me, movement in general has allowed me to really let go of the idea that I expect my body to perform at a certain level all of the time. First of all, I'm not a fucking robot. So there are like all these variables about how well I will be able to execute something physically. Whether it's like, did I eat? Am I tired? Do I have my period? Am I full of rage? There's so much going on there. If our expectations are just, I expect that I'm going to do my best, or I expect that the people around me are also going to do their best, right? In like interactions. That's a reasonable, perfectly normal expectation for us to hold on to. But if we're like clinging to outcomes, we're setting ourselves up to be disappointed. And there's so much more joy in doing something and saying to ourselves, like, I'm hopeful about the outcome, and I'm going to be present in the moment and be in it for what it is. If we're so tied to like the fortune telling or what this is going to look like at the end, we're also missing out on the thing itself, right? Because we're like in our head, we're like, what the fuck's wrong with him? Like, why is he acting that way? I didn't think he was going to do that. Or I thought this would go differently. It robs us of the present moment.
This actually ties in, I think, pretty perfectly to that. Why does it feel better to worry and stress about the worst? Like some sort of pre-grieving going on.
I think I wonder how often we should like keep a tally of in the break room of like how many times have you said this phrase in therapy for us therapists to be like tally them up. But I find myself saying all the time, like no amount of pre-worry or pre-stress is going to detract from the fact that you might have to feel this later.
Yeah.
We are all trying to like spare ourselves future pain. The pain is inevitable. We are even letting go of the idea that we are in control of whether or not pain is going to come about. It is. If you're a human living, something painful is going to happen, whether that's like physical or interpersonally. It's just a fact of life. But our brains are also like, we are wired, think about it, we're wired with mechanisms to be like, judge everything around you for threat, categorize it really simply. Our brains are still like in the BC, I almost said AD, BC era in there, right? They're like without words sometimes. Those mechanisms in our brain are not evolved enough. And you're right, I think we all also like tend to focus on the worst case scenario. Like, what about, have you considered all of the others? Like, have you considered the other half more than 75% of the spectrum?
Have you ever listened to the Invisibilia podcast?
No, should I?
Oh yeah,
so
it's an NPR podcast, but there's this great episode about a woman who doesn't have an amygdala. So she has no sense of fear. None. And because she has no sense of fear, she's been like, I have to fucking send you the episode after this. If I text the right phone number, I'll just text the 13-year-old.
You'll send it to a 13-year-old.
Send it to the 13-year-old, yeah.
They're gonna be like, interesting. And because she has no amygdala, she has been like robbed at gunpoint. She's been like assaulted because she has no sense of fear. So she'd be walking in an alley and someone's walking behind her and she's like, hey, what's up? And like, or she's like talked about this time when she like got held at knife point and she was just like, fucking do it, because she has no fear. And so it is funny of like your amygdala, although trying to protect you and keep you safe, and in a situation like that, it is good. The rest of the time, could use some work.
It's like the guy from Free Solo too didn't have that part of his brain.
Yes.
What's that? It's like that guy who just like climbed mountains without any, what do you call that? Free soloing.
Yeah.
He's a rock climber or something.
Yeah. Like just free climbing, no
nothing.
tether.
Was this a show or something that I missed?
Yeah, I think it was like a documentary. I stopped watching it.
I mean, it's also, that is terrifying to me as a person who I was just in Maine hiking. Also, this is not sponsored. Everyone needs to go to fucking Maine. If you haven't been to Maine, go to Maine. And they are not paying me to say that.
Can you imagine if we were sponsored by Maine?
The state of Maine is not paying you to say that, Linz?
No, they're not, but they should, the way I have such a boner for that area of our country. Or frankly, if you aren't feeling so patriotic, go to Maine and you'll be like, damn, it is nice here.
Oh,
like perhaps not any of the systems, structures, criminal justice system, political landscape. However, we got some beautiful fucking lakes. Like, you got to get up there. You got to look at them. No, I'm serious. I'm so into Maine.
I do love your Maine hard on. This is good. This is good. Okay. Is there a mantra you use when you need to release control?
Oh, man. For me, also, there's something physical about, like, I will remind myself if I'm holding on to like a thought or a situation, I will, and I can't get myself out of it in my head, I will like clench my hands really tight for a couple seconds and then let go and recognize how much better it feels to have like a relaxed hand than it does to remain so tense. There's a girl on, it comes up on my explore page all the time on Instagram. She is like, okay, hold on, guys. And then she'll have you like tap. Have you seen this chick?
No,
she'll have you like
no.
tap or like take a couple deep breaths. And I'm like, oh, what a good reminder. Like, that should be a built-in thing in everyone's algorithm. Like, every like 8 posts is like actually some woman just telling you to put your phone down and like take 2 deep breaths.
It's actually so smart.
That's so important. But really, I think also like the ability to connect your physical body and your brain in that way is really helpful. If you can't do it in your head, try it in your body. Try feeling what it feels like to hold on to something very tightly and then see how much better it feels to relax.
Okay. That's good.
so
I love that. Being a control freak feels like a personality trait. LOL. Can I change this? I like the LOL.
Totally. I love the LOL too. I also say it out loud, which is like not cool anymore, and I cannot get rid of it.
The
in my
LOL, or
vocabulary.
did you say
It's
lol?
not-
I say LOL.
It's not cool anymore.
Should I say lol? No, for sure no.
Damn.
I told you guys, Aaron
know.
said if we have a boy, he wants to name it lol, but like he's not kidding. Like it's not a joke. LULL.
LOL.
LULL.
Wow, you're
Like,
making
there's
that
a
face
lull.
that makes me think you don't like that.
There's a lull in the conversation.
I'm just saying, if you have that name, don't you think you're gonna end up probably being the world's most boring person?
Absolutely.
Lol is gonna be dull as shit. Like lol is dull. Lol is dull.
And they're gonna get teased. Honestly, even if they're not, right? Like, they're gonna get teased.
Yeah.
What is it about that? He just likes the word.
My guess is that's going to be vetoed. You should say, I want to name our child Veto.
Because that ain't happening. Okay, so lol, LOL. I like the idea of saying LOL out loud for the record. I'm sure Gen Z doesn't, but they don't like my blonde hair or my ankle socks, so it's hard to say. Okay, there was actually a bunch of Gen Zs that listened to this. I'm so sorry. I love you. I wish I was as cool as you. That's why I'm saying it. It's actually just to be clear, jealousy.
Just please accept us.
I just have to like cling to the things that I figured out 5 years ago, and I cannot let them go because I can't keep up. So just let me have them.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you can talk about me behind my back. It's okay.
That's fine. I'm enjoying it. Okay, so being control freak feels like a personality trait. Can I change this?
Totally. And there's a difference between, right? I also would encourage that person. Another thing I'm so annoying about in the therapy room, when people make comments that are self-critical, I will sometimes like wince visibly, like to be like, ouch, and see if they'll correct. Like, that's later on. But sometimes I will say, can we reframe that? Can we say that differently? Right? So instead of I'm a control freak, it would be I find a lot of peace or comfort in knowing how things are going to proceed or in feeling a sense of control. So that's my first annoying therapy thing I would do there. But yes, I think it's totally possible to let go of some of the like rigidity around that, right? And again, I'm not hypothesizing or saying we should let go of everything, right? Just like fucking willy-nilly, don't pay your bills, wear sunglasses inside, smoke cigarettes at the grocery store. Like, we can't let go of everything. But there's a happy medium that I think we are forgetting exists in our world.
I don't want to pay my bills. Are we sure?
No.
And I'm dying. I am dying to smoke cigarettes in the grocery store. So
aren't you? Aren't you like right next to like, imagine a perfectly stocked produce section.
Yeah.
Like it's just they're gleaming, they're glistening with that mist, and you're over there smoking a cig.
Hey, Sonny. I don't know.
Why are you smiling?
I'm not sure. That's me as a smoker.
I am going to say, I went out a few weeks ago, and if you're in the Westchester area, you know that you go to Jitters when you really want to just not feel good about yourself, because they still sell cigarettes at the bar. So I'm like, I'm buying a pack of fucking American Spirits. And I bought this pack of cigarettes, and I'm smoking in the smoking section, and then immediately puke. Like immediately I walk outside, and I'm like, this is it for me.
That was perfect timing though. You puked outside.
Yeah,
I feel good about it. Yeah. I feel great about that. Also, jitters. Like, I love that for you.
That's, like, it's like, yeah, my friend texted me and she said, I woke up smelling, because we had pizza then. She said, I woke up smelling like cigarettes and gluten. My friend Sarah. I was like,
I don't hate that, really.
Right?
I don't hate it. I don't hate that.
So, there's some places you can still smoke inside. Okay, you ready? We're going to do one more question, then we're going to do calling bullshit. Okay. I'm a type B person, and my partner is very type A, especially when it comes to control and expectations. How to support them?
Oh, cool. I first love that the way this person phrased that was not like how do I change it? Or I do it right and they do it wrong. Because in a lot of ways, like differences, particularly in couples, I see that presented as there's value judgment around it. It's not just this is a difference, it's this is a difference and what's wrong with them, or this is a difference and I do it correctly and they don't. So good on props to them. I wonder if there is a way for them to be asking that person, like, what do you need? Like, do you want me to meet you where you are and help you in that like more rigid, more controlled area? Or do you want my perspective? Which is going to be maybe like lessened more, right? Like chill, much more type B. So I think also asking people like, what are you looking for there is helpful, because I have been in, I'm sure both of you have too, been in plenty of like a tizzy, like a type A tizzy of like, this needs to go this way. And then somebody type B is just like, don't worry about it. Relax. It's going to work out. And you're like, I could stab you with anything available. Like, so I think there's also the important question of like, what do you want? What does my partner want from me right now? What would actually be helpful there?
Oof. That is the worst when someone says that. That's my husband.
Oh, does he?
He's like, anything you want. So supportive, so feminine, so sensitive. And I'm like, fucking have an opinion, motherfucker. Please, I'm going to die.
Yes. Yeah. Although I talk about that too. Sometimes I think men, I'm not accusing Aaron of this. Aaron, if you're listening, it's not about
you. He's definitely not listening.
Maybe it's about him then. But sometimes I think, I hate to make it gendered, so I will not. Sometimes partners in general tend to take this really lax, like whatever you want, no big deal approach.
Yes.
But it's actually like weaponized incompetence of I want to get out of having to have an opinion and then do the work if we disagree, or I don't feel like putting the energy into that. So there is a difference between like, I genuinely don't care, whatever you want, no big deal. And I'm saying that because I don't want to have to do the labor of like getting involved in that decision. Do you like, does that distinction make sense?
It doesn't hit home at all, Linz. No, not at all.
No,
for me.
No, it's not about Aaron. So it's okay.
Definitely not. Definitely not. We're talking about a different human. Okay. So Lindsay, as you know, every time we have a guest on, we play a really fun game called Calling Bullshit. And we ask you to call some bullshit on something you specialize, something in the field, whatever you want, call some BS, babe.
Okay. I am going to call bullshit on the idea that if we can't let go of something immediately, that there's something wrong with that, or there's something shameful about it. I know we talked a lot today about like how to let go and why it's important. I don't want the message to get lost that it is a very challenging thing to do that requires immense practice. It's an active thing you have to be working at, not just in therapy, but outside of it. So I don't like the idea. I think it is complete bullshit when people are like, hate that word, just let it go. It leaves people with this sense of like, okay, well, what the fuck's wrong with me if I can't? And it's harder than that. It's harder than that. And there's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean anything about you if that process is challenging.
Oof, Lynn, so good. Every time we have you on, it feels.
Did we do it? Did we crush it?
We crushed it. You crushed it. Your clients are unbelievably lucky to have you. And if you are listening and you are in the US, I believe you serve like 40 states at this point, maybe 41.
We're all over.
all over. So if you're interested in working with Lindsay, you can fill out a contact form at thetherapygroup.com and choose Dr. Lindsay Haston. She is absolutely incredible. Linz, your clients are so lucky to have you.
I feel like every time with Lindsay, I just wish that she was my therapist.
Me too.
The best.
Well, I wish you texted me more. So second best, we can actually have conversations now. Like you should put me and the other person in a group chat.
Oh, then I'll know that you're getting them.
And also see what happens. Like, will the person ever answer? Will that 13-year-old ever say anything? I'm so curious.
Well, ever since, that whole like saga of the guy that got mistakenly invited to Thanksgiving and then he went every year.
I love that.
Yes.
I've always wanted to be part of something like that. And this could be us. And you always win shit, Emily. Like you have good luck for weird shit. This could be it.
I do.
It's so funny that you guys both want to be part of something like that. That's literally my nightmare.
What part? Like having to go to the Thanksgiving with strangers?
Yeah, like going and meeting anyone.
We'd never get that far.
Okay, but like imagine you could go high in sunglasses and just eat and then leave. Again,
that's still her hell.
No,
I'm
still.
Me too. We would go together.
Yeah, because it's like when you're a +1 at a wedding and you don't know any of those people, you can just like be on cruise control the whole time. You're like, I've offended somebody. I threw up a little bit. I grinded inappropriately. I don't have to face this ever again. I'm never confronting it. Like, who cares?
This conversation feels like when you end a movie and then the credits go and then there's like a fun skit at the end.
And we're doing it. I can't get over how perfect both of your hair looks. Like, what's this about? Are you just having a glam day? Did you get fucking glam this morning?
We get glam before the podcast. And then the rest of the week, we look like trash.
We have 10 episodes. Dr. Lindsay fucking Haston, the best person in the whole world, thetherapygroup.com. Make an appointment.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Shrink Chicks.
We'll see you back here next week for another session.
In the meantime, if you want a question answered or a topic discussed, follow us on Instagram at ShrinkChicks. And if you're looking to get connected with a therapist like us to start or continue your therapeutic journey, visit thetherapygroup.com. Just fill out a contact form on our website, and we will personally match you with one of our amazing therapists. And for all of our therapists and group practice owners out there, we also offer group practice consulting.
And if you're looking to support yourself further and support our show, check out our amazing merch options at shrinkchicks.com/merch and our Know Yourself, Grow Yourself journal on Amazon. Also, if you'd be so kind, we'd love a rating, review, and for you to share with a friend or an enemy or a mother-in-law, honestly, whoever needs it, so that we can keep reaching more people on our mission to bring mental health topics to your ears every week.
Thanks for being here with us. And don't forget, to grow yourself, you got to know yourself.